The origins of Shiro, the time that she spent before meeting her brother Sora. Something that is briefly touched upon in the anime at the beginning of episode 9 is something covered in the light novel in volume 3 for the first 3 pages. And though it is brief in both the light novel and the anime, the depth that is shown in the light novel, contained within just those 3 pages, is something that the anime struggles to convey. The significance of Shiro's world when she first began, when it was solid white, monochromatic, devoid of color, devoid of meaning, and the light that Sora brought to it. This is something crucial to Shiro's character and why she feels the way she does about Sora. Sora is quite literally Shiro's entire world because of these first interactions that they had. And because of that significance, I want to delve a little bit further into them in this video, but even my own descriptions of it are not going to do it justice. So I do highly recommend you pick up the light novel and read it for yourself, as it does give a lot of insight into Shiro's character. In the light novel, it starts off by mentioning Shiro's first memory. She doesn't remember her first words, but she remembers the motherly face that was there, the face of her mother. But very soon after that, before she was even 2 years old, she was shipped off to a white facility, with stark white walls and a number of adults clad in white robes as well. There were, in fact, other children at this facility, but Shiro always kept to herself. With her stark white skin and her ruby eyes, she felt like an outcast, always keeping her sight cast downward in an attempt to blend into the background. And it was at this time, at this facility, that she was introduced to the concept of games. The white-clad grown-ups always brought what they called intelligence tests to her, but every game that was brought to her was too simple, too boring. There was no fun to be had playing with anyone. All that was left behind by these games was the word unmeasurable. And eventually, after about a year at this facility, no one would play with her. And Shiro eventually learned that it was much more tolerable to play by herself, playing both sides of the board, whether it be shogi or chess or whatever it may be. And after a while, no one else played with her. Even the white-clad adults decided to leave her alone. After about only a year of being at the facility, she was all alone. After she had been there for about 2 years, the woman who had supposedly been her mother finally came back to see her, all happy to introduce her to who would be her new father, and that man's son. She remembers greeting the man and seeing the boy that would be her brother. At this time, Shiro was 3 years old, and the boy was 7 years older. Sora was 10. As she watched him interact with the adults, all she could see was him return exactly what he was given, giving empty responses and empty smiles. And that is when she spoke the first words that she had spoken in a long time. "You really are empty." And at these words, the boy's eyes opened wide, and he stared directly into those ruby eyes of Shiro. Those eyes that no one seemed to want to make contact with, this boy was staring directly into, scanning, searching for something silently. And Shiro remembered noticing something about his face, a color that she had not seen before. And then the boy, Sora, spoke to her. "Come on, let's play a game." It is up to this point in Shiro's backstory that the anime covered, showing the monochromatic world that she lived in. And when she finally meets Sora, and she says that he's empty, his eyes light up. And we can see, it's very well visualized in the anime, that the color appears on his face. And when he looks into Shiro's eyes, he's searching for something, that sign that she actually sees him for who he truly is. That she, as Sora's put it before, is a player. She's the one playing the game. She is someone incredibly unique and at an unreachable height that Sora always wants to achieve. She is the person that he can believe in, and most likely it is that belief that Shiro is seeing as the color on Sora's face. And when he tells her, "Come on, let's play a game," that is when the color starts appearing in Shiro's eyes in the anime, but also in her life as a whole. Because this story still continues even past where the anime covered. Because on this day, Shiro found games fun for the first time. They played games 20 times that day, and at first, Shiro utterly destroyed him. There was nothing he could do to counter, but gradually, his moves started becoming harder to read. Gradually, he gained the advantage, using sneaky tricks and tactics that Shiro had never even considered before, and eventually, by the end of it, it was a 10-10 draw. Shiro, for the first time, had lost at a game. But Sora, at that time, looked like it was him who had lost, and he was extremely happy about it. For once, he found someone that was a player, someone who he could strive to be like. His world was no longer empty. The color that Shiro saw still ever present on Sora's face, the color that she didn't know the meaning behind. And then Sora spoke. Sorry to be a no-good brother who can only win through sneaky tricks, but I hope we can get along. Shiro. And he said her name with such meaning that the color in his face became clear. It felt to Shiro as though her name was spoken for the first time. It was the feeling of being wanted, of familial love that she had always desired. She felt wanted for the first time when Sora spoke her name. And it was at that moment that her monochromatic world, this world of just black and gray and white, had become colorful and fun. And it was that moment, that interaction, that changed her world completely. And eventually, after this point, the two who called themselves their parents eventually abandoned them, and they found themselves living alone, Sora and Shiro. And Sora said, well, I guess it's just going to be us two from now on. And that one statement was all Shiro ever wanted to hear, was that they were just going to stay together from now on. She was no longer going to be alone. She had someone who she could always trust to be there with her. And it was around this time that they started playing online games under a single name, by combining their names together to create Kuhaku, or blank. And thus the urban legends started to spread as they set scores unimaginably high that no one could ever touch. This is the origin of not only Shiro, but blank, the legendary gamers that will come to topple Disboard, and that this entire series of No Game No Life is based around. The significance of the memories that Shiro has, and the significance that Sora plays within her own life, is something that cannot be understated. Sora is literally Shiro's entire world, and that sets the basis for her dependence, her reliance, and her misunderstood feelings towards her brother. She loves him more than anything. She literally cannot stand to be away from him. We see that multiple times throughout the anime. These two cannot be apart. They are truly two in one. And I will revisit this topic a number of times as we move throughout the light novels, and more information about the dynamic between Sora and Shiro is introduced, and how their dynamic is actually becoming more complex, or at least in Shiro's mind, as more characters are introduced and their overall group of friends begins to grow. Because up until now, it was only Sora and Shiro. Shiro's entire world was Sora, and Sora's entire world was Shiro. Shiro is always following in Sora's footsteps. She's always following her older brother, the brother that she can rely on. But for Sora, his world is continuing to expand, with Steph and Jabril and other characters that we meet, but they are all mostly in Sora's world. Sure, they are there tangentially for Shiro, but for Shiro that means more of her world seems to be threatened to be taken away. That one of these other girls might take Sora away from her, and that terrifies her. And it is because of this origin, because of Sora being her entire world, that she fears losing him so much, that she will do whatever she can to hang on to him. And although that's something that becomes more relevant much later on in the light novels, that is something that is introduced here in this very moment when we find out Shiro's origin. How she was sent to this facility at a young age, one that was seemingly to test the intelligence of prodigy children. She was off the charts in all of the intelligence tests that she had been given. And eventually, even the people at the facility stopped interacting with her. They didn't know what to do with her. And it was only when Sora was eventually introduced to her that her world began to have any color in it, where she began to have fun. If Sora had never come to visit her, she would have withered away. It is Sora and the words that he spoke to her that give her life meaning, that give her purpose. She lives her life for her brother. She cares about him so much because of what he has given her. He has given her the familial love she's always wanted, that feeling of being wanted, the feeling that she is important. Not just some lab rat to be tested in a facility, but an actual individual with meaning and purpose. And the expansion on this, that they played games 20 times, that she was able to overwhelm him, but Sora learned from that and was able to overcome it, using sneaky tricks and tactics, unreadable moves that Shiro had never seen before, is Sora's own strength. And Shiro sees Sora as an unreachable height, the same way that Sora sees Shiro as someone who is playing at a much higher level than everyone else. They both idolize each other, and that's what strives to make them the best together. They are both truly two in one. They both live for one another, and without each other, they probably would not have made it this far. Shiro is the one who fills Sora's emptiness, and Sora is the one that colors the white world that Shiro had once experienced. And that is why it is so significant as we move into covering the events of Episode 9, the rest of the anime, and the events of Volume 3, that when Sora disappears during the game of Existence Othello, Shiro's world returns to that monochromatic world. The color that Sora brought to it vanishes momentarily, while Shiro is doubting the existence of her brother, where she thinks that her brother may have abandoned her, or that she's going insane, or that she imagined it all. The visuals of Shiro's world returning to monochrome in the absence of her brother is a wonderful touch by the anime. But the significance of this, I think, is lost by not having the same level of depth to Shiro's origins. How her world started out as monochromatic, and it was Sora that brought that color to it, that let her feel wanted and experienced joy for the first time, that games could be fun. I think the anime does do a good job of covering it, but the light novel just adds that extra layer of depth, and hopefully in this video I was able to convey that at least somewhat well. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What did you think of Shiro's origins? That her world started out as this monochromatic grayscale world, and it was Sora that brought that color to it. That he was empty, but it is Shiro that gives his life meaning, and vice versa, that Sora gives Shiro's life meaning. Truly two in one. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, more analysis into No Game No Life, we are about to get into the thick of Volume 3 of the light novel, which covers episodes 9 to 12 of the anime, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that if you're interested. And if you want to see some games played live, make sure to check out my Twitch channel as well, linked in the description below. I stream every Tuesday and Saturday. With that being said, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Ashente.